animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. What will you do?
I know you.
All of civilization depends on it.
The future. I can see it.
All right, we're going to start a cult.
So first off, let's start with our spoiler-free review. Did you like it? Is it good? Should you see it?
Well,
Don't everybody jump in all at once.
So I love the book. It's the book that made me realize I actually like sci-fi. So I really love the book.
So the book's good, therefore see the movie.
Well, if you're a person who loves the book, then yes, I do think. And I don't always say that about books that become movies. Like
Okay.
there's some really bad ones out there.
Ten Commandments. So if you've read the book, worth seeing. I agree. I've read the book. It's worth seeing.
I also agree. If you've read the book, see it.
But okay, you two have not read the book.
Not read the book, and I think reading the book would give you the context you need in order to understand.
But did you enjoy it going in cold, having not read the book?
A little. A little. I thought it was pretty.
Pretty?
Yeah.
Like pretty, visually pretty.
Visually pretty. Denis. I took a lot of French classes. I should know how to say his name.
You should probably know that.
His style definitely comes through. Is it worth sitting through for 2.5 hours? Probably not.
So not recommend. If you've not read the book,
No.
you're a no. What about you?
Didn't read the book. I talked to a couple of people at work before I saw it, and they warned me. I mean, they were like waiting on HBO Thursday night, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, watch.
Nerds.
And and they said you're going to be confused. There's too many subplots. The book was 90%, internal dialogue. Just don't have high expectations. I liked it. 2.5 hours went by. I enjoyed it.
What was really well done stands out to you?
Cinematography was gorgeous. The long shots, beautiful.
Special effects.
They were special and they were good.
Mm-hmm.
They were special. Okay.
I thought the music was really good.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. Was this just a big Hans Zimmer music video? He did some Police, some Sting music. Mm-hmm. Could have been good.
Yeah.
Every breath you take.
Roxanne. So acting overall, great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cinematography, great. Special effects, great. For you, it was... you didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah,
hard to follow.
Yeah, my main thing was that I didn't have context for what was happening, and why these characters meant anything. It didn't have, the emotional depth I needed.
There's some assumption that you know the book and know the plot going in.
It was good.
You were.
Yeah, it was good. I don't think, exposition, whatever, was really cleverly kind of woven in, except for I'm Googling the people moment,
Yeah.
If you pay attention, I didn't feel lost.
Okay.
At 48 minutes in, you said aloud, "Oh, that's his dad."
Yes. I did.
Oscar Isaac and
Timothy
Chalamet.
I had no clue.
So it took her 48 minutes to realize Duke Leto Atreides and Paul Atreides, that relationship. All right, I would like the two of you who have not read the book, tell us the story of Dune. What was it about?
It was kind of a coming-of-age story. It's been done over and over again. Figuring out who you are, Star Wars. Using the word "the one." It's
The Matrix.
The Matrix. Yeah, it's
Jet Li's The
just
One.
call him something else. Even though the book said that, don't be faithful to the book, because as soon as they said, "Oh, he's the one,"
Keanu Reeves pops up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't recall if they call him the one in the book, but the one is the Kwisatz Haderach,
Yeah,
which they do say in the movie, but
yeah,
you're probably like, what was those words?
right.
The Fremen call him Muad'Dib, which I think you hear it muttered at one point.
And then there's all this pseudo Game of Thrones family stuff background that you had to keep up with. That wasn't the main.
Right.
Timothy, what's his face, is chosen for something. He's trained in witchy arts by his mom.
What are the witchy arts called? What's that group called?
The
Best you can come up with.
Besit Gabulul.
Oh, good.
Besit Gabulul?
There's a B in it. I
What
know.
do you got?
There's a bien zippa. whatever.
I forget.
Bien Zippa.
Yeah.
Amazing. This is the best ever.
Should we just keep guessing until you get it?
And there's weird manipulative stuff that his mom does in order to like push Tim to perform better. There's a weird erotic undertone to their relationship.
Did you see a weird erotic undertone between Lady Jessica and Paul?
No.
It's just you.
You're just projecting, Bromley.
Maybe. And the family had been sent to this planet, the drug planet, in order to...
What's the name of the drug planet? Opium Den?
Oh, gosh.
Asurac or something like that.
Okay. So we've got the... I forget. What did you call the...
Well,
the
there's the planet has a name that starts with an A, and the house has a name that starts with an A.
The
and I
house name is
confused them.
Atreus.
Okay, so the house Atreus goes to planet...
Asshat, whatever.
The house Atreus goes to planet Asshat to control the drug, which is called...
Now, wait a second. Now, this is like the thought bubble of the whole movie. They go, it is the only way that you can travel interstellar space travel, and it's a psychotropic drug, so it's the most valuable thing. And I'm like, is it valuable because it's both? Is it valuable because people really use it as a drug? And then I'm like, this is 1965, or is it valuable because, it's a nuclear grade fuel, and they mine it in these huge amounts. And so if it's a psychotropic drug, what amount makes it? It was my mind was racing. I didn't listen to anything after the next 5 minutes.
Logistics of the drug trade.
Oh, it's a floor wax and it's a dessert topping. It's
You
both.
got your chocolate and mine
It's kind of like
peanut butter.
Windex. I mean, there's those worms that look like assholes, so I'm going to call it Asshole Planet.
Asshole planet full of asshole worms.
They go there, and people who live there all have blue eyes because they're so high.
Pretty cool.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What are the natives called?
Friggins.
Friggins. The Friggins on planet Asshat. Okay.
Well, it's like Freeman, but there's some sort of pseudo off, not
So it's Fremen.
Fremen,
Fremen.
yes.
Not Freeman.
Yes.
Close.
A little
Mor-
too close,
Morgan Fremen.
Yeah.
Morgan.
So they go to this planet in order to
The
take
Slaves.
Right.
control of this planet.
They're taking it over from their rival house, which was
Yeah,
house.
which is the blonde
Hammerjacks.
fat
The
people.
Hammerjacks.
Yeah.
What did you say?
The blonde fat people.
Blonde?
Bald.
Bald. Yeah, they were bald.
They're all
Yeah.
bald. Yeah.
They're all bald and have like,
No eyebrows.
yeah.
The bald fatties. What was the name of their house?
It began with an H, like
It does.
Häagen-Dazs.
The Häagen-Dazs. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Baron Häagen-Dazs, the Emperor kicks out House Häagen-Dazs, inserts House
Atreus.
but it's all trap. What's going on?
It is a trap, but we find that out kind of like
It's a trap.
later on.
What do they say? When is a gift not a gift?
When is a gift not a gift?
Oh, that's a good line.
So it does seem like House Atreides knows it's a trap, but they're going anyway.
Because they have to.
Because
Have to.
Oscar
Ceremony.
Isaac wants to bring peace to the people.
Because House Häagen-Dazs are
They're obviously
evil
the bad
jerks
guys because they're pale and fat
and bald.
and bald.
And
Just kind of,
That's a little stereotypical.
we
yeah.
remind
Thank
me
you.
about the David Lynch Dune.
So
There's
the
a-
Asian mystic doctor betrays.
Chinese.
Yeah.
A bit more.
What's his name?
Khan?
No,
Ikea? Ikea?
it's like I don't.
IKEA. Dr. IKEA.
Yeah, we'll go with Doctor
Space
Ikea.
Japan. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
He betrays the family. Atreides gives Oscar Isaac that tooth that will
magic
really,
tooth.
yeah,
Yeah,
release a
poison in it.
poison. And during all this is happening, Timothy is having visions of Zendaya just looking mournfully in the desert.
In there one where I think she's killing him, right? She stabs him?
Yeah.
So his visions of the future, are they reliable narrators?
They don't seem reliable.
Yeah.
Do they?
And the witch asked him that direct question.
It just-
or are they reliable?
It just seems like Timothy has a lot of anxiety. He's just thinking of all the ways things can go wrong.
Can you see why Kale likes this book?
Yeah.
Oh, don't pick on Kale.
We can pick on
Bale.
Kale Bale.
Paul Atreides needs some Ativan. None of this would have happened.
What'd you think of the test, the put your hand in my box test?
I think they could have done more with that.
Put your right hand in the box. Silence.
I think the mother outside was doing a lot better acting than the son inside. It seemed like she was feeling more pain than he was.
Fear is the mind killer.
Yeah. she's
And
doing
that was
some-
confusing too, because she's supposed to be this member of this clan of witches that
Spice Girls.
The Spice Girls, yeah, and that don't experience pain, that have all this control, and that she's the most emotive person in the whole movie.
emotional.
Yeah.
You're kind of a hot mess, girlfriend.
Okay, have we fully described the plot?
Some other fighters come in. Yeah, they drop from the air kind of like in a weird sort of
They
way.
have like hover belts.
Yeah. And
But you
then-
were like, oh, that's unrealistic. I was like, the hover belts? That was the part you're not into?
Yeah. You know, Timothy and his mom don't escape. They get taken away into one of the dragonfly helicopter things.
Ornithopter.
But they use the voice, they escape into the desert, and then they meet up with Zendaya and her friends. And then also the one lady who seemed important.
The ecology.
Yeah, the black lady with dreads.
Yes.
Who's a man in the book, right?
Yes.
Wow, how do you know that?
Yeah, how do you know that?
I read that.
Lee
And I think
Kynes, you know how people complain about like, oh, they're doing an all-women reboot, which I'm fine with. They're just usually bad. So, but you know, people complain, oh, it's like woke. Oh, every character is bisexual or something.
Yeah.
Like some dude just quit DC Comics because he was having to draw a bisexual Superman.
I feel like Superman should be bisexual, as an aside.
He's an alien.
If I were an alien,
Only straight aliens. None of
I'm more
none of this gay
bi as human.
zoophilia. What is it?
xenophilia.
Xenophilia. Gotcha.
I know.
Sounds right.
You know you're
Anyway, so this is the thing I saw people were complaining about, because Liet Kynes in the book is, in the David Lynch movie was played by Max von Sydow. So, an old white dude.
yeah.
And people were
Sure.
like, they replaced it with this black lady, like, that ruins the story because of all her background. It's like, that's...
I feel like it fit just fine.
I thought she was one of the better actors.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
you're gonna... If you don't know the book, you're not even gonna notice
Nope.
there's
No.
a change. None of these side characters are getting anywhere near all that depth that, it's not gonna matter.
I still can't figure out why they can hover and they all want to do knife fights and spear fights. But
Yeah.
So you didn't catch up on the knives and the shields? Was that not clear?
and then they have
Like,
these.
why do they wear the shields, and why aren't they just shooting everyone? Why is it sword fights and stuff?
How do they
That's a
advance
good
everything?
question. I don't know.
It's all knife fights, and then they have at the
Maybe-
beginning they had weapons. They shot the blue laser beams and shot down the big ships. Those would probably work on humans too.
Maybe it's like the planet is kind of like England, where you can't possess a firearm, so everyone just goes a little.
Just emperor's order.
Just, you know.
The shields prevent, like, a bullet can't come through it. You
Yeah.
can only penetrate the shield if it's moving slowly. So you have to get your knife in there and then, like, stop and then
Yeah,
slowly
I saw
move it
that.
through.
I remember that. Yeah.
So that's why, like, projectiles don't work. There's special knives, Kriz knives, and I forget
Yeah,
the details of it.
But a dart went through, right? Remember the?
But that's 'cause it's a
when
special dart.
Leto.
Why was Oscar Isaac naked at dinner? I need to know this.
I don't think that's in the book.
I
I don't recall book nudity.
But like he was just like sprawled out too,
It's very sprawled.
and I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening? Is it like I just need to know? I mean, I just imagined something weird happened, and I wish I knew.
The only thing that's better in the David Lynch version than this is Baron Harkonnen. Because he's so over the top, silly,
like you
evil,
wouldn't
ridiculous. It's great.
Yeah.
This guy reminded me of what was it? Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I had the same. No,
Kurtz.
Marlon
Marlon Brando.
Brando. Yeah.
Oh,
That
that's a
bald
good-
thing. There's a part where he's like rubbing his bald head. I was like, that's exactly out of
That's
Apocalypse
a
Now.
good
Mm-hmm.
observation. Yeah.
Why did they use the metric system sometimes, and then they use imperial sometimes? They have to be this many meters in the sky to avoid the storm. Why do they even use meters?
Here's a question. What is their relationship to like Earth and humans?
Yes,
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, and that's the only thing I could think of and then they had degrees, how hot it was, and they kept talking about, oh, you can't even survive it, and it's 120. It's 130 every day in Saudi Arabia. If it's a made-up degrees, that's fine. If it's a made-up altitude, that's fine.
I feel like sci-fi typically goes to like metric.
Yeah, because that's the future.
Well, it helps me think about my future now. If it's 3,000 years from now, they're still using metric. I should switch my tools.
So
I don't know if this is the right segment, but their nighttime was like such clearly like a day for night situation.
They have two moons.
yeah, well, yeah.
Where it was
that's
like
fair,
just
but-
a blue filter put onto this. To do that now, like I could see like in movies in like the 70s why you'd use that, but now like just do whatever people do to make night movies. Film at night.
Yes.
Night movies.
Come
So
on, Denise.
Lawrence of Arabia is a big influence on Dune. It's essentially the same. Lawrence of Arabia has famous day for night shots too that are like pretty obviously. It's
Yeah.
like you're in the desert. There's like clear shadows, but it's like kind of blue.
But I forgive that because it was like 19.
62.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, the guy who did the calculator thing with the
Right.
weird eyes. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
This is a future of Earth humanity thing. It's not like Star Wars, like whatever. Well, they give a year, but it's the year that's like post Spacing Guild year.
Oh, okay.
Which is like years since they've had interstellar travel. I have an estimate. It's the year 23352.
holy shit.
Jokes
night
on them.
fighting.
Humanity's definitely not going to exist then.
They're doing all this like selective breeding, evolution. So like humans are kind of diverging.
Eugenics.
Yeah, it's eugenics. And the Bene Gesserit are like a selective breeding gone crazy.
Project.
Like, yeah, they're like trying to produce like perfect, transcendental, amazing humans. And so they like are getting semen from just like great people, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. And
How are they extracting the semen?
it's a voluntary thing.
That's voluntary.
You become the concubine or the
Yeah.
spouse of the person.
Okay.
Yeah, so Bene Gesserit women, they're all women, and they're all trained, and they're all like super genetic, amazing, and so they're like psychic.
They have the
and-
voice, or they have
Yeah,
the
and so that's from like
intuition or
selective
whatever.
breeding. They send out like concubines to like breed with all the great people.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and so Lady Jessica was a concubine. She's sent to be with Leto Atreides.
So is she really in love with him or not?
So yeah, they are in love, but can't marry. He could theoretically marry her, but because he's single, it's this opportunity. Other houses could have like political marriages, so it's the reason they don't get married.
And
Remember,
that
he
explains the
does
line
say-
where she says, wasted on men, not women.
Yes.
Because she's trying to get more.
Right. So yeah, the Bene Gesserit, they're not supposed to have girl or boy daughters.
Would they abort?
I think it's like they can control it.
In the book, it talks about how they have the ability to be like
Yeah, like they blame
decide
her.
the gender. Or the
They
sex
blame her.
of
They're
their-
like, you did this inappropriately. Because the Kwisatz Haderach is the perfect human, and it's a boy made from the Bene Gesserit. And so she's like, oh, I'm going to make that boy then. And they're like mad at her.
so
They're like, you weren't
cocky.
supposed to do that. Yeah.
Was I wrong though? She says that to Charlotte Rampling.
She is so cocky and full of herself.
Even though she cries through the whole movie.
Yes.
That's one line of like advancing human evolution. The other is the mentats, and they're like supercomputer calculators.
Makes me think of those mints. Yeah, the
Mentos?
Mentos.
Mentos fashion full of life. This episode brought to you by. So the mentats are the like it's like a masculine route of evolution of like, well, we're calculators and we just do math.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Warhammer 40K. Yeah.
What?
Warhammer 40,000
It's like a tabletop game.
slash
Slash.
now it's just a million different video
Yeah.
games and things. I've never played any of them, but
I've played some of them, but like people separate into like weird genetic lines, and then there's an emperor, and the people who run 40K are like the company is just terrible. But
hot take.
hot take. That's not that hot, really.
The other line of evolution are the starship pilot people, which take the spice and then they like bend space-time and are the reason why they can travel.
They can bend space-time because they're all drugged up.
It's like a combination of the drug plus they're like evolved.
So it's really
for
not a
it.
fuel. It's
No,
it's
yeah,
a
it's-
mental state that allows them to
Yeah.
do it.
Why
So
don't
if you
they?
do the psychedelic drug enough, plus you have this evolved person, they just sit in the pilot's seat and mentally warp space-time and the ship pops from one place to another.
Why don't
And they
just have-
consume a lot
so
of
it-
spice because there's pallets and pallets of it.
It's like they replace technology with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like instead of having a ship that does this, they have people that can do this.
Yeah.
They didn't really get this across in the movie.
Not at all. In the David Lynch one, you see one of these pilots, and it's like a human whale manatee hybrid thing in a tank, and it's very strange.
Oh my god.
It's very David Lynch.
I love it.
Would you
How
like-
long is David Lynch?
He's about 5'10".
Thank you. Like having seen it and knowing the movie you just watched is only half the book. Mm-hmm. So like, can you imagine trying to squeeze all of the book into one movie and then think about like all the questions you have?
Yeah. It's maybe 2 hours 20 or something like that. It essentially feels like you watch a 90-minute movie, which gets to the end of this movie, and then it crams the whole second half of the book into like 20 minutes at the end. And it's just like, this is a montage to like, oh, I guess it's done. All right.
This needs to be an
Montage.
HBO miniseries or something.
Yeah, it does.
Yes. That's probably a better format.
So they made this, it says part 1. Part 2 is not greenlit. It's like, if this does well, we'll make a part 2 4 years from now.
Okay, I'm curious. What do you think comes in the second half of the book?
Yeah.
Like, what, do you
Right-
think,
right to-
what do you think comes next?
Write the sequel for us.
Well, his dreams say, I don't want to become the person who kills trillions of people in the universe. I guess if you're really thinking like philosophical treatment here, heroes are only heroes from one perspective because you kill lots of people when you win a big battle like this. And so one person's hero is another person's villain. I'm not sure it goes that deep, but I mean, it's kind of seems like it wants to go this, let's examine what a hero is. The real natives and the people, they're smarter and more capable than anybody can imagine. And the underdog, Mighty Ducks, are going to come through and win the championship at the end, because they've got good leadership and teamwork.
I hope Emilio Estevez shows up.
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't seem to want to cater to the standard Hollywood groups. There wasn't like, hey, let's make the kids happy here. There wasn't let's have the funny sidekick,
pole.
Or let's have the gratuitous violence or the gratuitous nudity.
One-liners.
Yes, one-liners.
Obnoxious
Yes,
one-liners.
yes, exactly.
Duncan, Idaho.
Duncan, Idaho. Which
names-
I wish it would have been Johnny Daytona, and so.
Did this movie give you Green Knight vibes?
Oh, yeah. And that it's beautifully shot, but
Pacing.
We're doing a quest.
kind of obtuse.
I feel like the pace, it's very focused on the one main character. It's not very interested in exposition. Green Knight doesn't even tell you King Arthur is King Arthur. You're
Right.
like, oh, that was a king, I guess.
But I read that and I understood everything that happened.
Yeah, but the movie is not explaining. It's not like we're going to do all this exposition. So the David Lynch Dune opens with a lady talking to camera in space, explaining a bunch of stuff.
Kind of like the Star Wars.
Title crawl.
title
Let's just
crawl.
throw a paragraph on screen.
Know then that it is the year 10,191. The known universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, my father. In this time, the most precious substance in the universe is the spice melange. The spice extends life. The spice expands consciousness.
Which, those are usually not even very good exposition. My problem with it is, like, if you're going to put paragraphs on the screen, like, that should really give us a lot of information and not just be like, meanwhile, in the world of sub... And you're like, we
you
immediately
there
know
yet?
all of this as soon as the movie starts. Like,
Right.
it's not really helping. If you watch the extended edition of David Lynch's Dune, which was directed by Alan Smithy...
What else did he direct?
Alan, you're scrolling. Send error report. What the hell did you click? Alan Smithy is the name they put on movies when the director takes his name off. Or her. I guess, I don't know what it is for her. If a woman does it, is it still Alan Smithy?
I would
Alice.
So when they made the extended edition, it like opens, instead of the woman talking to camera for 2 minutes, it's this like 10-minute montage of like concept art with this voiceover that's new that is like explaining so many things, but also doing it very poorly. And I feel like it repeats itself. It's atrocious. It's so bad.
The Spacing Guild, or the Guild, emphasizes pure mathematics. It is through the Guild's monopolies on the economic life of the universe that makes it so powerful that it is the year 10,192. The known universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. The Emperor Shaddam IV has rule on planet Khitan over all the great houses of the Landsrad. The great houses of the Landsrad are members of the royal families who rule or govern over the Chom Company controls the mining of the spice. The Chom Company is controlled by the Padishah Emperor, Shaddam IV, and the great houses of the Landsrad. It is the Emperor Shaddam IV who dispenses Chom directorships and contracts to the various great houses of the Landsrad. Two of the great houses of the Landsrad are the House of Atreides on planet Caladan. The planet Caladan is ruled by Duke Leto Atreides, cousin to the Emperor Shaddam IV.
And then throughout David Lynch's Dune, it tries to do the thing where, like in the book, you know, you can see what characters are thinking often, and so you know all the subtext in the scene. David Lynch's Dune, it just, like, you hear voiceover narration of, like, what characters are thinking. Yeah, so David Lynch's Dune is just over the top. It's going to do so much exposition, and the extended edition is even worse. Like, they're adding more narration, and, you know, it's not good.
Well, this movie, they did have some exposition at the start, right?
The Google search on the...
Yeah, but it's got nothing on David Lynch's Dune. So.
Yeah.
The walk.
Yes.
I would have
shows the walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have preferred exposition kind of woven throughout the...
At some point, you can watch David Lynch's Dune and get the over-expository version and then tell us which one's better.
So maybe we've overreacted to the David Lynch.
It's definitely his style, and it's kind of
it is.
it's kind of the art house style, I suppose. It's like we're not going to do that exposition stuff. Right. Why is this not just a 10-episode HBO series?
It should be.
Yeah.
Right?
It should be.
It's
like,
so bad.
There's
Like,
clearly
so many
lots of like
plots
depth
and
to the story that I would love to know.
It's not that different from Game of Thrones in that
It is not.
respect.
No. It's exactly.
In fact,
They could make more money
yeah.
if they had done this on HBO.
Yeah.
You'd think. I mean, it's like what is the point of movies anymore? Because we all have these giant TVs, and it's like, I guess movies make more money, but they're not as good at telling stories.
Do they really make more money?
I think they do, especially
In
big
China.
ones like this.
Yeah, if they're in China,
The number 1 and number 3 highest grossing films of the year are both Chinese movies you've never heard of.
Okay.
I've watched them.
Okay.
A video coming up.
What's his face ripped off Dune for Game of Thrones in a lot of ways.
Yes.
So many.
Yeah.
George
House of.
R.
Yeah, and why are
The Beatles producer.
There's the Earth. If you're from planets, why do you call yourself a house? You know, and they're never in a house the whole time they're here. And, I mean, any scene, they're not
There's
in
no
a house.
house.
Not even in houses.
That's right.
housing
I
for
didn't-
the
They're not even
people.
in castles or anything. They're
I did
they're in
notice
vehicles.
they walk through like a cemetery, and instead of gravestones, it looked like giant Monopoly houses.
They absolutely did.
They're houses.
Timothy Chalamet, Paul, how old do you think his character is supposed to be in the book?
Well, they say over and over and over again, he's so young. It's almost the drinking game for this movie. Is how often somebody comments about how young he is.
So what's your guess?
15.
Okay.
How old?
Grandma.
Well, we talked about this
Oh,
already.
did we? So in the book, he's 15. Yeah.
Oh, really?
You were exactly right.
Yeah,
But the
15,
actor,
exactly
Timothy
right.
Chalamet, is 25.
Okay, yeah.
But I buy him as like 19.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his arms are the
19.
size of my wrist.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way up.
He's dainty.
I think it was CGI.
Some men
He's
are
very
dainty
dainty.
their whole life, you know? Which makes them the ultimate twink.
Kyle MacLachlan in 1984 plays Paul Atreides, and he looks like he's 30 at that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was actually 25, like the same age as Timothy.
Really? 'Cause-
although to be fair, this movie was filmed 2 years ago, so I think Timothy Chalamet was like 23 when they were shooting it.
Okay.
Kyle MacLachlan is like looks way too old, and he's like 2 years older. Timothy Chalamet just looks super young.
Yep.
We have predictions on the Rotten Tomatoes score. My guess is the critic score is going to be high. I'm going to say 88, and the audience score is going to be lower because
Like
a lot
76.
of people will be like, This movie's slow. and
What's
dumb.
happening?
Well, I think it's going to be very polarized. There are going to be people that are really high and people that are really low, and not a lot of people in the middle. I guess the Rotten Tomatoes is somewhere as an average.
Yeah, every review is just called either fresh or rotten. So it doesn't matter if you give it 5 stars or 3.5. That's a fresh.
Okay.
So it's kind of a pass-fail, and then they average out the pass-fails.
I think
It's the critics.
the opposite,
You think audience score will be higher than critic score?
but slightly higher. I'm going to say audience score 75, critic score 70.
Okay.
Interesting.
I have a Reddit review.
Oh, I love
You
this.
might have seen this.
Maybe, because that's where I went.
I've loved all of Villeneuve's other films, but this sucked. Sure, it looks great, but it's a nearly 3-hour movie with very little story or character progression. By the time the credits rolled, I felt like I watched a supercut of a few episodes of a big-budget TV series. Some of the worst pacing I've ever seen.
I slightly agree. I like movies that sometimes have like a lack of, they're more like style over substance. You know,
It wasn't enough to overcome.
it wasn't enough to
the-
overcome lack of emotional depth or like understanding the full depth of the story.
I feel like if I had not read the book before watching this, I would probably be exactly where you are.
The vehicles, what you call them?
Ornithopters?
I call them what, dragonfly?
Dragonfly.
Yeah.
I thought that was really clever.
I know.
You know, I'm like, well, I guess if in another world, that's what you might come up with first. And so there were a lot of things that were clever, I thought, and new ways to think about things than what a group of people from a different world would come up with. And so it kept me interested. I was like, okay, what's going to happen next? I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I really liked no comic relief, no, gratuitous.
No Jar Jar.
Yeah, no Jar Jar.
This is
there was a moment where, like, okay, I'm changing with my mother. Are they going to make this too awkward? No, they just said, next
Turn
scene,
around.
turn around, and
While Gromling's like, oh, sexual attention.
yeah,
Part of that is because they were too close in age. The actors are too close
Yeah.
in age.
Yeah.
This is like the anti-Joss Whedon.
yeah.
Yes.
And so they just, they avoided a lot of things that would just be easy.
Tropes.
Yes. And I appreciated that. And maybe it wasn't a good plot, and maybe it was slow, but I appreciated.
I appreciated the lack of tropes as well.
Yeah.
You know.
That gets old so fast.
Sound mixing, I thought, was a little bit bad. It was hard to hear the dialogue. It was getting into Christopher Nolan territory, I thought, at times. Especially when they're talking about the quiz at Satarak, and you're like, what?
One of the things I thought was really clever that I thought, okay, this is an interesting way to convert what happened in the book to the movie, is there were these under the breath comments that were like quoting Bible verse.
Right.
That okay, I'm getting a hint to what they're thinking by what they're saying under their breath.
Your desert boots are fitted slip fashion at the ankles. Who taught you to do that?
Seemed the right way.
In another language.
In another
'Cause They're
language.
just muttering in their
Yes.
native.
Right.
But no, they would often whisper
A lot of whispering. Yeah.
while standing, like, I don't know, as far apart as me and Jeff right now.
And they were also doing sign language.
lot.
Yeah.
I would like a person who knows sign language to watch this movie and tell me what they're really saying.
And if it's American Sign Language, that's interesting that they're still using that.
Do you think they were just
3,000 years from
I
now?
wonder how much thought goes into this. Did they come up
Surely
with an
not.
original sign language, or is it just do whatever? It doesn't matter, and they're
It's
just
kinda
saying
like-
fried chicken enema, and you're like, I have a cheeky synopsis: Wet dreams for a dry planet.
Oh, I like that.
Pretty good. And you have the Harkonnens who are like Harkonnen.
Yeah, so
I
it's
never
traditionally
know.
it's Harkonnen.
Okay.
And everything I've ever seen, it's always been Harkonnen, and this called them Harkonnen. So it
Oh,
seems like a
Häagen-Dazs
choice.
is Harkonnen.
Harkonnen.
I feel like when I read the book, I pronounced everything differently from what.
Well, I played
It is in the
Dune
movies.
2, The Building of a Dynasty in 1992 on computer. It's the first ever real-time strategy game.
When you were 6.
The real-time strategy game, the overhead
Yeah.
view, you click on a soldier and click over here to tell them to go there. Collect spice and that gives you money. Every real-time strategy game since
Sounds
then is based
good.
on
Yeah.
this. That's
Sounds
the
so
original.
fun.
Sounds
Dune
like Civ.
2, The Building of a Dynasty. I played that. My brother had it, and so I would stare at him while playing it, and then I'd try to play myself and not really understand what I was doing, but that same company, Westwood Studios, then makes Command and Conquer after
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
then you've heard of Command and Conquer.
Whoever controls Dune controls the spice.
The house that produces the most spice will control Dune.
Now, three houses fight for control of Dune. The noble Atreides, the insidious Ordos, and the evil Harkonnen.
Quote, Gromling said, great neck. I wrote that down.
I did say that.
At some point, you also were talking about chins.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. So Timothy.
And cheekbones.
Who has good cheekbones? I forget.
There's a black...
yes.
Oh, yeah,
is
that
it like
dude.
a Fremen dude?
Yeah, he had the most beautiful cheekbones.
Yeah,
they were just
sharp. Yeah.
His first acting role, his first credit. They just went and found the best cheekbones they could.
No, they really
did.
That man was like a model or something.
Yeah.
Cheek model. He's a cheek man. When he did the hand in the box, you asked, was that his right hand? You're worried about... Do I even have to say it?
I mean, she asked for your right hand, and then I was looking for the right hand as well.
Well,
And it seems...
I was just like, what's going to happen to your hands?
Yeah.
And,
Dominant hand.
Dominant hand.
Therefore... Did you know where we're going with this?
I didn't know that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Lots of things happening with the dominant
I was
hand.
just worried about...
That's right.
Say it.
Lots of
Say the
things.
word. She's worried about his jerking hand. And then asked if he's a switch jerk.
Does that go both ways?
Silence! Silence!
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
I tried not to think of the word serum or flesh.
Stop it! This is your pain. This is your burning hand. It's right here.
Fear is a little death that brings total obliteration.
I'm going to my cave. I'm going to my cave. I'm going to find my power animal.
No! Don't deal with the way those dead people do. Come on!
I think the two of you are having a conversation. Bring back capes for men. Capes. They're a big...
Capes? Why?
I don't think I've ever worn a cape.
I
Other
have
than
a
maybe
cape,
Halloween.
but it's kind of useless because the wind always blows it around as it did in the movie.
Well,
Capes, overrated.
And they had these super sophisticated suits that would convert urine and
Other things.
and sweat to water. And then they wore these
burlap
capes. Yes. And like, what was the purpose of the burlap cape?
Yes.
Yes. There was the moment when I thought of Dana when their custom when they make coffee is everybody spits into the coffee.
Yeah.
They spit in the coffee?
Yes.
I missed that.
You did miss that because that happened.
Yes.
I
And
did.
then
I missed that
as a tradition that we all kind
We were busy talking
of
about
ceremoniously
switch
participate and contribute
You
something
share
to the
your
cup.
water.
You share your water. Yes.
Yeah, there's a part where he spits as a like...
The line, you shared your moisture with me.
Yes.
That is,
You know, I'm guessing they read that and like, that's my line.
There is
I'm going to have to
such-
pull off that line. Yes.
For some reason, you make my body waste moisture.
There's
And
spitting.
then when they capture that, you're like, oh, you're worth more to us as moisture than you are.
Yeah, so at the end, when he kills the dude, they're like putting him in like a tarp. I was kind of like, let's throw him in a blender and I'll drink him. Like,
that's what happens in real life. In real life, in the book,
In
that's
real
actually
life,
what they do. Is
in
they,
the year
they don't bury their
23,
dead. They
30,
harvest
65,
the moisture and they get rid of.
You put a man in a blender. and
How do
he
they
sits
not
like-
all have prion diseases?
I have a question for David.
They figured it out.
The tips of the blades of the ornithopter,
yeah.
how fast are those moving? Are they supersonic?
No, because
There'd be sonic booms.
There'd be sonic booms, obviously, but if insects are doing it, and we don't hear it from the insects,
It's fair.
it's a
You
very-
don't want the tips of your blades hitting supersonic speeds.
And
Cut
they-
to
and
the
they-
XF-84 Thunder Screech.
The worst and most cumbersome aspect of the experimental aircraft was the screeching howl generated by the supersonic propeller blades, which gave it the nicknames Thunder Screech and the Mighty Ear Banger.
What do you got? A turboprop where the tips of the blades were supersonic, so it was just making a sonic boom constantly. And there's like they're talking about ground crews hundreds of yards away vomiting because it was so loud. It's
Wow.
like imagining the pilot in that. And they're like, yeah, maybe supersonic propellers are a bad idea.
While taxiing, the XF-84H could be heard from up to 35 miles away. One of the Republic Aviation engineers had a seizure after being hit by the shockwaves.
Could you imagine being that guy who's just like constantly vomiting while piloting a ship? Reminds me of the time I had had a migraine, right? And my migraines make me vomit. And so I'm like driving down the highway trying to get home just so I can take my meds. and I'm like going 70 miles per hour down the highway while vomiting like into a bag.
Because you have to.
What do you do?
Twist.
Yeah.
Next thing is someone cuts you off and you're mad at them.
No, that doesn't happen.
And then you throw your vomit bag at them.
That would have been great.
That would be amazing. So one bang and it's over.
No, it happens the whole time. You're in a sonic boom.
the entire time. Yeah.
So however long it takes you to enter.
So basically, as you fly over the country, the whole country gets
Yeah,
one.
however long
it washes across.
Yeah, that's the misconception.
Yeah.
It's not just one bang boom. You're
Definitely do
done.
it
The
until
whole
night.
country hears one boom.
That's it. That's the sound.
I want what she's drinking.
That's the sound.
I didn't eat a lunch, so this is...
So the weird arrhythmic run you have to do to avoid the worms.
Yes.
Do you remember this?
Yeah, the drunken walk.
They like Google it at some point. We see a Google hologram.
Avoid making rhythmic noises which attract the sandworms. The Fremen cross desert spaces using the sandwalk, a dance-like motion with irregular rhythm.
I do feel like this was the inspiration for the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yes.
Silly walks. You see that? Oh, is that on camera? Okay. When you get in the desert, you have to do a weird walk, right? And then repeatedly, they were in the desert and they weren't doing it. And we were like, what is happening? Why
And they
are
had
you
the
using your
thump
weird
machine,
run?
and there were people walking behind them.
Yeah.
What are the rules?
So eventually they're like, oh, now we got to use the weird run. But until then, it was like, why aren't you doing the weird run? Do the weird run.
Chekhov's run.
Chekhov's run. And then I was really hoping once they're like, we have to do the weird run, that it would be the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yeah.
It's not that dissimilar. It's just more horizontal than vertical.
It's like motion with irregular rhythm, which emulates the natural sounds of the desert.
I kept thinking, what if the worms are what's creating the spice?
They are.
Spoiler.
What if they are?
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Wait, are they?
Yeah,
You
the
find
worms
that out
make
in
the
the
spice.
book, yeah.
And
But
what if
which
the
is why you can't
worms
kill them.
are more intelligent than the humans? What if the worms are the intelligent creatures?
Even weirder answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into this.
Do you want to know the answer to
Yeah,
that
give
question?
it to me. No way. I gotta read these books.
I'm telling you, they're really good. I mean, I've only read the first one.
Well, and I feel like the best parts of the book...
It's worth your time.
The best elements of the book are things that you have mentioned in a bad way. Mm-hmm. Like talking about like, well, he's the one and it's kind of predictable. He becomes the one. And it's like the good things in the book are subverting that. Mm-hmm. They're just not yet in the movie. There'll be a movie too.
Okay.
So
I can't wait.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Recasting ideas for Paul. Helena Bonham Carter.
Paul, you're gonna go old with it.
It could be 1984, dude.
All right.
Helena Bonham Carter. I get a lot of Helena Bonham Carter vibes from Paul. His haircut.
This is cancer, right?
This chick, Marla Singer, did not have testicular cancer. She was a liar. She had no diseases at all.
He looks like he could be, what's his name? Helena Bonham Carter's husband? Tim Burton.
Tim Burton.
He looks like he could be Tim Burton's kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he does look like every goth kid in high school.
Fun fact, did you know Tim Burton and Helena Bonham Carter fell in love on Planet of the Apes when she was dressed up as an ape. And he was like, that's my thing. I'm into it.
And then she's been in every movie he's made since. Charlotte Rampling. She was Charlotte Rampling was going to be Lady Jessica in Jodorowsky's Dune in 1975. Mm-hmm. She pulls out, however, after she realizes there's a scene involving 2,000 extras defecating.
What?
Yeah. Jodorowsky's Dune was going to be weird. Also, Jodorowsky did not read the book.
Oh, that's a problem.
Who was it? I think it was John Lennon came to him and was like, I love your movies. Here's a bunch of money. Do whatever you want. And he goes, I want to do Dune. And his reasoning was, oh, a friend of mine told me it was good. He hadn't read it. He also then has a quote about when you're adapting a novel into a movie, it's a lot like raping the bride.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I changed the end of the book, evidently. It never changed. Not awake, very cosmic consciousness. It's different. It was my Dune. When you make a picture, you must not respect the novel. It's like you get married. You go with the wife. Why? If you respect the woman, you will never have child. You need to to open the costume and to rape the bride. I was raping Frank Heber, you know, raping like this, but with love, with love.
I have a quote from a review. Will part 2 really be coming? If it will, if part 1 is successful enough, and that isn't foregone, it's hard to build a cliffhanger on shifting sand.
Okay, so I actually do say, like, if I was going to have a criticism, the pacing is super weird. Because I feel like the climax of...
It doesn't feel like a climax of a movie.
No.
I would say that.
Yes.
It's not even a great, like, cliffhanger.
Yeah, when it ended, I felt like maybe a technical malfunction happened. Because I was like, this is the end?
This is the end.
I feel like there were a couple of points earlier in the movie where I was like, oh, this is it. This is the end of the movie.
Where would you have ended it earlier?
Maybe
just like they're stuck in the desert and you're like, oh,
maybe when there's
but
at the
then
start
it's like,
of
oh, now he's
the
part of the Fremen and things are starting to
frenulum.
Oh, now it ends. Frenulum.
I kept thinking when he had his right hand and the box.
What's in the box?
If you let the fear wash over you, that's the answer. And so I thought, when he was out there and the worm was coming, that the worm is going to open up, and if you're just calm, that you could just stand there.
Interesting. Very zen.
And maybe he was going to get a tooth, and
harvest his own knife.
Harvest his own knife, and he was going to get some street cred, that type of a thing from that. Nothing ever happened. Maybe it's going to happen in book 2 that they get some street cred.
Yeah.
There's a lot of foreshadowing that does not pay off in the first movie.
Yeah, it's hinting at stuff that's later.
Yeah.
I feel like the second movie will be about how Timothy Greatneck will become the leader.
Greatneck Atreus.
Yeah, will become the leader of the Frenulum.
Denis Villeneuve said at the Venice Film Festival that he's planning a trilogy. So it'll be 3 movies to cover 2 books. 1 and 2 are the first book, and the third movie will be the second book, which is Dune Messiah.
Wasn't there more than 2 books?
There's like 9 books.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Frank Herbert dies and his son Brian keeps writing them, and there's a lot of people who say that Brian Herbert books are basically like...
fan fiction?
Meanwhile, HBO is making a series that's a prequel called Dune The Sisterhood. Will serve as a prequel to the film with Denis Villeneuve directing the pilot. So that's
I'll
coming.
watch that
That's
for
coming.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking game ideas?
How many times did his right-hand man pull his sword and he said, stand down. Like, just have a conversation. Don't pull your sword so much, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, oh my goodness.
Let me see your
He
suit.
tells you you're wrong every time, and you keep doing it.
I have another Reddit review. Dune could be retitled This Is My Serious Face, the movie.
Yeah.
There was no character development. I felt no attachment to the main cast. I did not care about what was happening. I had no trouble understanding the science fiction elements. I lost all interest in potential sequels when I read online that...
What the fuck?
This person heard that and was like, I'm done. This is done.
I mean, this is going to make me watch more because I'm curious.
So, like, tell me about the Baron.
Oh,
Anything
yeah.
about the Baron? What do you think about the Baron? You forgot he hovers.
Yeah, he had the thing along his spine, the lights.
In the David Lynch Dune, his face is covered in like pustules, like he has smallpox or something. There's a scene where he's like saying creepy things about his plans while a doctor is there like sucking the pus out. He's also homosexual and then does some like rapey stuff. At the time, it was heavily criticized as being like the worst possible stereotype for gay people. It was like all these pustules. They were saying it's like it's this like AIDS panic, gay panic. I read that and I was surprised. I was like, in '84 they were saying that about.
Yeah, because also like
I feel like AIDS wasn't that known.
Yeah,
yet
it wasn't.
Apparently,
it wasn't really a thing until late '80s or late
yeah,
90s.
but there's a bunch of movie critics said like this is the worst possible depiction of a
also for
homosexual
them to be that
ever.
woke.
Yeah, in '84, I know. I was surprised.
It must have been bad.
It is uncomfortable.
Like, I don't know that David Lynch is doing that on purpose. I think it's probably just a misunderstood thing. But I love Baron Harkonnen in that movie. He's so over the top evil. In this, he's like a creepy Marlon Brando Apocalypse Now evil.
Right.
In that, he's just like hamming it up. It's like the Emperor Palpatine and some like the prequels. He's just
Right.
He who controls the spice controls the universe, and what Piter did not.
Oh, it's so over the top.
Always zapping. I feel like the movie did a poor job of like evoking how weird and wonderful the book is.
Is the movie good at making you go, these are weird, I'm going to read these books? It's like a book primer. Makes you want to read it? Is it good for that?
It's an...
Maybe it'll help you visualize some things when you read it.
Yeah, but I think like if I were to watch this by myself, not knowing that it was that the books were good, I don't know if I would have gone into being like, oh yeah, let's read this. I'd be like...
That was dumb.
Yeah, that was kind of...
Any other thoughts? Drinking game ideas?
Every time Timothy Chalamet, he...
Masturbates.
He does
every wet dream he has?
Every what? About his mom?
Ugh.
Or his Zendaya?
Who is 12 years older than him, the actress.
I don't know.
Which is like a dateable range.
Not
What's the dateable range?
Half plus 7.
I mean...
So
half plus 7?
Yeah, you don't know half plus 7?
Does that go both ways?
That's what she said.
So she's like, what, 37? So 37 divided by 2 is...
Doing math on the spot.
I know. That's like 18 plus 7. That's 20. He's exactly it.
Yeah. If he's 25 and a half. So you can date Chalamet?
Yeah, I can.
23-year-old?
That's true.
That seems wrong.
Does that seem wrong? Yeah.
Why would you want to?
People's brains don't finish forming until they're 25.
Well, that's why
Prepackaged.
you want a finished product.
Yeah.
You don't want the beta, the early access, the Steam early access boyfriend. You're not into that.
I need the...
Steam jokes. Retitle the movie. What would you call it?
Old Spice.
Old Spice.
Good, I like it.
Spice World.
Spice World.
Paul just has a Bible.
Yeah.
It's like a Catholic Bible. It's like, it feels so out of place, but it is the future of humanity. Oh my God. Drink.
Ruined.
Drink.
I was raping Frank Heather, you know, raping like this, but with love, with love.
All right, we're going to start a cult.
It takes a village.
10 hours of editing to make this not be horrible.
I feel like that's a diss.
You know, I think that should be the tagline.
What is it, Sebastian? I'm arranging matches.
That's it, is it?
Yes, that's it, yes. Mm-hmm.
It's not particularly silly, is it?
I think with government backing, I could make it very silly.
And they live in St. Louis, but they're like, that sucks. This better.
And
how are they extracting the semen?
It's a
which makes them the ultimate twink.
Fried chicken enema.
It's a floor wax and it's a dessert topping. So many movies ripped off this movie, or even the book, or whatever. It's like
supposedly George Lucas pulled from.
You should watch my latest video. Star Wars is a Dune ripoff.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So I just finished editing last night.
I can't wait to watch this wonderful video.
Yes.